Hello, investors and traders. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season and are ready to embark on a profitable journey in 2025. In this video, we'll dive into our predictions for 2025 stock market. Spoiler alert, you may not like what I have to say, but I want to be honest with you. I'm here to share how I plan to profit in this market. Before I make my predictions, let's take a look at what's happening around us. Warren Buffett is stockpiling cash, and BlackRock sold out of Bitcoin recently. 2 weeks ago, we also sold 90% of our positions, including Bitcoin, QQQ, NVDA, etc., which we documented on YouTube. At the time, we acknowledged we might have been early, but we took profits off the table, and it seems we were right, not early. What does Warren Buffett do during uncertain times? He holds cash and waits for the right opportunities. Similarly, BlackRock doesn't sit idle. They find new investments to make money, even if the market is headed for a downturn. My bold prediction for 2025 is that we're headed for a pullback. I don't see a full financial epidemic, but I do see a pullback happening. While some sectors might buck this trend, for us, there are two ways to make money in this market. Shorting into market rallies, which for the last 2 years, we've been buying into market sell-offs. Now it's just the reverse. The second way, if people do not like to short into the market, is to invest in commodities. The past 2 years, 2023 and 2024, have been incredible for the stock market. At the start of each year, we predicted bullish trends, and we've been super accurate. We started 2024 by advising you to buy on the pullbacks, focusing on Bitcoin, QQQs, and the Magnificent Seven stocks. However, as the year progressed, we warned that this bullish phase would eventually end and suggested taking profits off the table. Even if you are a long-term investors, rounding up some cash is not a bad idea. No matter what you did the last 2 years, you should have made a lot of money. And taking some chips off the table for the inevitable pullback that will happen in the next year and a half is a smart idea. Even if you're a long-term investor, like Warren Buffett, like BlackRock, like many investment firms that are telling you this market will go up again like it has gone up for the last 2 years. But behind the scenes, they are selling and either moving into new vehicles, new investments, or they will short this market. I want to be clear. I'm not here to sell you a newsletter, software, or affiliate marketing products. I'm simply sharing my views and opinions. Some of these opinions you might not agree with, and some you might find hard to believe. But what if I'm right? I've been right 3 years on this YouTube channel. I've clearly been right in the investments I have chosen. And this is not a popular view that I'm giving right now. But if you look at the historical data and take away emotions, being prudent is definitely the right strategy. Some of the other predictions we made in 2024 included political forecasts such as Biden potentially being replaced and the likelihood of Trump winning the election. Let me stress, this is not a political channel and have no intention of sharing my political views here. This channel is about building a system and finding ways to profit in any market condition. For 2025, I believe overall market conditions won't be as favorable as they've been in the past 2 years. However, there are still opportunities to find big winners. To succeed, your system must adapt to these changing conditions. Our optimism is rooted in historical data, but I must emphasize that relying solely on historical trends or a single indicator is not prudent. Instead, success lies in building a system, a consistent, well thought out process devoid of emotion. Before we dive into the details of 2025, let's take a moment to review our recommendations from the past 3 years, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Key highlights from the last 3 years. In 2022, we successfully shorted the market during rallies in both stocks and Bitcoin while using the VIX as a gauge and an investment tool. We made profit investments in commodities like oil and wheat. This same scenario of 2022, we expect to happen in 2025. In 2023, by focusing on buying on the dips, we capitalized on every market downturn. Our primary focus was on the Magnificent Seven 7 and other growth stocks using oversold indicators to enhance profitability. 2024, throughout the year, we encouraged buying on pullbacks in the QQQs, the Magnificent Seven, and Bitcoin. But we also warned that this phase wouldn't last forever. We are in the ninth inning of a baseball game, the fourth quarter of a football game. We advised taking profits off the table, which proved to be the right move. For the last 3 years, our predictions have been spot on, documented on YouTube. Seasonal tendencies have proven remarkably accurate over the past 3 years. The first thing that I would like to focus on to back up my bold prediction is that there are 4 phases to every stock cycle. There's the accumulation phase, which was the beginning of 2023, and we quickly went in 2023 to a growth phase, which lasted to 2024, where we're at now at a distribution phase, where the indexes might be reaching new highs, but there are significant deficiencies in this market rally. And what I believe will happen next is the declining phase. The phase that I think we are is the distribution phase, while many big institutions are calling for a growth phase to continue, but they are selling out behind the scenes. To say I have not seen this recently, I like to call this video back to 2022, like going back in the future. In 2022, we called a sell-off in cryptocurrency. We called a sell-off in the overall market. And we also said the place to be is in the commodities market. Deja vu. We're calling it again. Before we get started, disclaimer, the information provided on our channel is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. I encourage you to build your own system. Protect your capital by all means and speak to a financial advisor. I'm not selling you a black box. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just giving my opinion. And for the last 3 years, I've been spot on. And I'm giddy to go into 2025 looking for the right opportunity to short this market and to get into the commodities market. You can look at this 2 ways and start building up cash inside of your portfolio. Even if you're a long-term investor, having a percentage of your portfolio in cash or safety for the inevitable downturn in the next year and a half. There will be a time we get a pullback sometime this year. And if you have the cash, this could be a great opportunity. One of the most famous long-term investors, Warren Buffett, is raising cash. He raised cash in 2021 to rebuy back in 2022. Deja vu. It's like going back to the future or back to 2022. What do we look at? We first look at a top-down approach, the bigger picture. What is the overall market doing? Then we look at what's our trading edge to predict the overall market. One indicator does not make a strategy and should be coupled with other indicators and philosophies. So we're using a weight of evidence. I'm not just basing this off one fact of presidential elections or one indicator like a MACD, but imagine putting multiple indicators together to give you high probability investing. And I clearly do not change day to day. And even though I might lose a few investors because my opinion is that we're going lower, it's okay. The big institutions are selling. The big institutions are getting out. There'll be a time to get back in, just not yet. I'm a rule-based system. I follow empirically, theoretically, and psychological indicators. I base this off a 3-part process: the overall market, sector phases, and the individual securities. So right now, I am not shorting into the market. I am neutral. I am sitting on large amounts of cash and will be waiting for certain indicators to come my way. I'll give you a few of them today. Intermediate term, I am bearish. And long term, I am bearish too. When we wake up in 2026 and we look back at this video, we'll see if I was right or wrong. If there was opportunities in the commodities market, if this market sold off. In 2022, I announced my bold predictions that this market was going lower and the commodity market was going up higher. We were right. In 2023, we told you buy in the pullbacks when the big institutions were buying secretly and telling you that this market wasn't going up. And we said, keep buying. For 2 years, we've been a steady bull. For 2 years, we've been screaming bullish. And even though Trump is very favorable to the stock market, doesn't mean it's going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. But it takes an individual to say what he believes. And in 2022, the same opinion was there. My same opinion is driven on data-driven approach to maximize success. I've seen the signals 3 years ago, and it's the same signals over again. Let's start with the basics. The S&P 500 securities, 88% of the securities are in a declining phase. If you look at the NASDAQ, 84% are bearish. So based on stage analysis, it's very difficult to find a stock that's going up the last 2 weeks. So if the stage analysis says that it's very difficult and we're bearish, what's holding up this market? Well, let's skip down a little bit over here. And if you look at the Magnificent Seven, they're all pretty much looking good. As this has worked in other years that the Magnificent Seven has held up this market, it is still very negative that everything else does not look good. And we are in a declining phase. And what happens if the inevitable pullback in the Magnificent Seven happens? Now you can say for the last 2 years, you've been telling us to buy on pullbacks. Yes, I know. Now we're changing. On December 3rd, maybe a little early by 1.5%, but we moved out of 90% of our long-term positions. A week later, we moved out of all Bitcoin position and told you we are sitting in cash because we had a great 2 years. Just on our long-term position, we are up 74% on the QQQs. We've been buying every single time on the pullbacks and then selling a certain position. But on our long-term position, really December 3rd was a time that we went and said that this market is going lower. Thus, we did not short into this market. Not yet. There's going to be certain factors that we look at to short into this market. But just imagine since 2023, January 18th, we've been bullish. And to say we'll be bullish the rest of our lives, that's just emotion speaking. And we rode this all the way up for a long-term gain of 74% and a lot higher on a trading gain of every time there's a pullback, buying heavily, and every time reaching a certain position, getting out. One of the things we're not shorting into the market now is the fear index, as this is very neutral. If we go to our chart here, when this number and the rally starts happening a little bit, we'll get into better position as we're looking for a high probability entry, just not an entry at all, but a high probability entry. If you take the market volatility on a 50-day moving average, again, neutral, and we will wait for this rally to happen and the fear subsides. And it will happen, but this is just emotion speaking. We look at our short-term indicators, which is again very neutral. And when these line up to be 100, then we'll take our first short position. What's very interesting is the Commodity Channel Index, the CCI. And as the MACD, which usually tells us in major moves, that we are going lower, we got 4 sell signals at the top. And usually when this happens, coupled with the CCI, which is screaming bearish, just building a weight of evidence. But why am I not going in now? Because if you look at the short-term, medium-term, and long-term indicators and as it swings, we sold off a good percentage. And we're going to wait for these numbers to go up a little bit to get into a better percent. I believe next year the components of the overbought, oversold will be working very well. And again, we'll be looking when this is overbought to short into this market. For 2 years, we've been buying into the Magnificent Seven, always buying in the pullback. This is what's holding up the NASDAQ. This is what's holding up the market. But when the inevitable pullback happens, when the inevitable fall happens on this, you'll see the QQQs fall with it. So why not take some profits off the table? If you are such a long-term investor, you've had to make great money in 2 years. Do not be so greedy that you don't take some of the profits off the table. Taxes? Well, if you turn this to a pullback, you may not have to worry about taxes. You'll have a loss on certain position. If you look at the AA market sentiment, we feel it's a neutral position. If you look at the put call option, there's greed, which makes it a bearish position. But thus saying that, you have to use a weight of evidence. And if you go down to the RIDEX ratio, we would love to see a higher index before we start shorting. And the stock price strength is at extreme fear. All these things are coupling in us to tell you that this market is for a sell-off. Well, what if you say I don't like to go short the market? Well, there are going to be certain sectors that do well. They will not be sexy sectors. They will not be technology and the rising of Tesla. They're going to be inside the commodities industry. They're going to be things you can eat. We are going to specifically focus on commodities in the next 3 to 6 months. We're going to specifically focus natural gas, wheat, oil, the right times to get into it. We'll be also looking, and I know this is going to hurt a lot of people, to short into Bitcoin, to short into cryptocurrency. I've seen this before. And in about 1.5 years, I will get back into cryptocurrency after shorting it. For me, this is a very exciting time in the stock market, and I'm very much looking to have another great year. You know the catchphrase: study it, analyze it, adapt it. Peace.